Okay, well, for the next meeting, he called my phone during the meeting. That was funny.
Hey, we're on board.
We are on board. Oh, my gosh. Good evening and welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Hartford City Council. I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask if you'd please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Roll call, Shannon.
The mayor and all alderpersons are present except Alderperson Webb, who is absent and excused.
Thank you. We have before us a unanimous consent agenda.
Move to approve.
President Rusniak, second by Alderperson Turchi.
Sorry, guys.
It's a lot of
We're going to get the whole sonata, or what are we going to get here?
a lot of fanfare for just a unanimous consent.
Yeah, wow.
Could have that all the time. It's
Apparently, it was quite an introduction to the
Yeah.
Unibet.
I'll recognize Mr.
I
Fulop
don't
on
even
that
know
one.
what's running in here. This has been a while. Apple upgraded, I think. That's right.
Apple, yeah, blame it on Apple.
No more seconds from him.
Yeah, really, no kidding. So, did you want to go over the items then, Shannon?
Yep.
Thank you.
Motion by Alderperson Rusniak, seconded by Alderperson Turchi, that the following three items on the consent agenda are approved by the Common Council. The Common Council minutes of August 22nd, 2023, authorizing the appropriate city officials to transfer hangar land lease for hangar number 44 at the Hartford Municipal Airport to Sid Prom from Cedarburg, Wisconsin, and approving the purchase of the Sharp copier for a cost of $10,189.10 for the rec center.
That's a lot of copier. Any comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Item number 5, communications. Shannon.
So we have two Mid-Moraine meetings coming up. There's the Mid-Moraine Legislative Meeting, which is tomorrow, the 13th at 7 p.m. at the Jackson Municipal Center. And a Mid-Moraine meeting hosted by the Village of Thiensville will be on September 27th. It's going to start at 6 p.m. and reservations are due September 16th. So please let me know by this Friday, the 15th, if you would like to attend.
Okay, thank you. And next, we have appearances and citizen comments. We do have, it looks like an item here. Jason Wicks, Business Improvement District President, to request that the Common Council consider allowing bid parking passes in the Park Avenue Mill Street parking lot. Is he here to? Okay. Thank you. So Jason from the bid. You might just make sure the microphone's on and kind of pull it toward you. There you go.
All right. Thank you for your time. What I'm here for is representing the bid as the president. And what I'm looking to do is, as it stands right now, all parking passes that are issued by the bid to the employees and business owners are issued by myself. And they can park on in the Johnson Street lot between the police department and Expedition Supply. With that being said, with the number of increased businesses downtown, tenants, employees, what we're looking to do is have consideration of the bid parking passes be allowed up in the Mill Street and Park Avenue lot, which is just west of the Cobblestone Inn and Suites. That's the parking lot that the bid, the city masters had chipped in to develop. And that's what we're looking to do, is have employees allowed to park up there during regulated hours. We've monitored that lot, and that lot is typically only at about a third capacity during weekday business hours. It's full, obviously, Friday nights, weekends, but the majority of the employees would be using that lot during business hours. Talking to Dave, the parking guy.
That's a polite word. I've heard it called many things.
He, on averages, sees approximately 25 bid parking passes in the Johnson Street lot. So looking to relieve some of the parking pressure in that lot to be allowed up into the lot that I'm speaking about. So just looking for consideration on that. Like I said, I issue all of the parking passes to businesses as those businesses request them. I have a log. So each parking pass just typically looks like this. They hang it from the rearview mirror. They're all numbered. So if Perk Place requests 5 of them, I've got a log that we log all 5 of those numbers in case of any issues with people abusing it, or we can know where these are attached to what business. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. How does this move forward then, Steve, regarding the passage of this? Obviously, there's no vote on this where it appears on the agenda, so.
Yeah, tonight there will be no vote on it, but we'll bring it back under Public Works at their next meeting, which is 2 weeks from tonight. And then we will take it to council immediately following.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, anybody else, citizens' comments or appearances, you're welcome to come up. Just state your name and address, and you get 3 glorious minutes.
Thank you and good evening. I'm Tom Hostad, Executive Director at the Hartford Area Development Corporation. And I'm here tonight to comment on an item that is on the agenda. That is the request for an adjustment to the timing in the payment of impact fees. Some of you may know that those impact fees are currently paid at the time a building permit is taken out. This is a request from a local builder who's doing a small project in the Skyway Park development, building 7 homes. And they've asked for deferral on the timing of the payment until the home is finished and occupancy is granted. So as many of you know, for a small business, this is a cash flow management issue. Paying fees for something that the impact, it doesn't actually occur until 4 to 6 months later when someone occupies the home. The money that is used to pay the fees could be better used to pay for raw materials, make payroll, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm asking for your consideration in granting this one-time request. This is not a request to change a policy. That may come later, but this is just a simple request from a local builder to make an adjustment in the timing. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Dennis Hagee, 115 Martin Drive. Just to let you know, I'm still here, getting better, getting stronger, and doing well. Wanted to comment on the budget item tonight. As far as streets, by all means, keep going with the streets. They're getting more expensive to do. If it ends up being a cost increase that the taxes have to go up a certain amount, don't skimp on it. We can't cut back on the streets. I've traveled around the state quite a bit, not so much this year. Our streets are better than a lot of communities, but they still need more work. And especially the old core streets that have leaking sewer underneath, maybe not leaking, but water infiltrating into the sewer that gets out the sewage treatment plant, and water main breaks, et cetera. So those things can be improved, as well as the surface of the street can be improved. So I've had to do repairs on my car, the suspension system. Is that because of Hartford? Well, it's because of everywhere, all around the state. The streets, the roughness, that really impacts the life of your car. And then one thing that also is on there for tonight is the airport terminal building. In the event that there's money for it, and that doesn't mean that there will be this year, but it's in the budget, and it's been in the budget for a number of years. Just consideration, when a terminal building is designed, it should be tall enough that an aircraft could be suspended inside, because there is an airplane at the airport that should be put in there, and it would be donated and then suspended from the ceiling. So just be aware of that. The plane was built by Jim Miles, and the airport is named for him. So it would be appropriate to have that. It's a small plane, but just make sure that it gets built that it could handle that. So if that goes forward this year, great. So that's what I have for you tonight. So I'll listen to deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Comments, third call? If not, the mayor's report. That's me. I wanted to thank everybody that attended, and especially all of those who put on the 9/11 memorial yesterday at Burnt Park. I thought it was very well done. The police department, the fire department do excellent work. Remembering 9/11, of course, we have the wonderful memorial that was money raised from the citizenry, and I think it very apropos. And I made the comments yesterday, and I'll echo them today. I've never really seen the country pull together like it did right after 9/11. It was an incredible thing, and I'm praying to God that we don't have to have another catastrophe like that in order to be able to pull together again. I think there's a lot of positives in working together in a bipartisan fashion on so many issues. And the folks that were there yesterday really did a wonderful job as far as with the flag ceremony, with the bells. I especially liked the fire trucks going round and round with the sirens off but the lights on as a tribute. And speaking of fire trucks, we're going to be getting a show of our new fire truck on Tuesday. It's a Pierce. It's showing up. At 1 o'clock, there's going to be a little bit of a ceremony with the chief and some of the fire department. I'll be there to help accept the $110,000 check for our $600,000 engine, if you want to know what those things cost. Luckily, they last a long time because they are not cheap. But when our fire department says they need something, the police, the fire, the EMTs, paramedics, that's one thing that this council does, is we support them. I've never seen where we haven't supported them, and I'm trusting that that will continue because they do a phenomenal job. #1 rated paid on-call fire department in the state of Wisconsin, and we're very proud of that. A reminder, too, if you've been driving by Woodlawn Union Park, you'll see the orange fences going up, and that means it's buckskinners. So we'll have buckskinners this weekend. That's something that over COVID did shut down. It has come back, but I would encourage you, if you've not, even if the weather might be a little crazy, I think it's supposed to be fairly nice. I put in the order for this weekend for good weather. So I would encourage you to go to buckskinners. We're one of the very few communities around here that has something like that. If you've never gone, please go. It really is that turn of the century 1700s, 1800s type of little camp that they put on, and there's all sorts of things that you could do, including a horse ride that goes around. The area is fenced off. They do have things like axe throwing and fun, even though we have a bar that does that downtown without having orange fences, which is really kind of neat. You can try that out on Main Street. But would encourage you this weekend to take your kids to Buckskinners. It's a lot of fun, and I would like to have them see that there's increasing support now after COVID, so we maintain it in the city of Hartford. It is one of those weekends that is unique in the area for us, so it would be nice to keep that up. And with that, we have aldermanic requests. President Resniak.
Okay, just one thing. I officially serve on the bid board for downtown, and Steve, I'd like to officially request that that be put on the agenda for our next meeting, a request for 6 parking spaces. That's what they're looking for. 6 parking spaces, so let's make sure we can get that on the agenda. And
Is that
secondly,
on top of what they're asking?
no, this is what they're asking for.
No, they're asking to move it to the park.
So it's just 6
For
spaces?
the mill lot. Jason, 6.
Wait. Microphone.
I didn't catch number.
No worries.
What the request is, I know that that was part of our discussion at some of our board meetings, but I feel that there is enough ample parking up there that we can allow more than 6, not put a cap on it. I would have to say in talking with the businesses that would most likely be using that lot, we're looking at less than 10 cars a day. It could go, up from that. I don't want to have put more work on, the police department or policing that lot to limit it to 6. If there's going to be 3 there, one day there's going to be 7 cars. I would just like to see, that the lot be all parking, the parking passes for the bid to be allowed. But like I said, I don't see it going over 10 on any given day.
Good. Either way, we'll get it on the agenda, and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And secondly, welcome back Dennis Hagee. Welcome back, Dennis. Good to see you.
Thank you, Alderperson Carroll.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Alderperson Reagan.
Nothing tonight.
Alderperson Garza.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Alderperson Turchy.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Alderperson Savage.
Nothing.
Alderperson Kohler.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Alderperson Fulop.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Super, boy, you could tell there's a ballgame on. With that, standing committee reports, we have Finance and Personnel, Chairman Rosniak.
One item, discussion and consideration of authorizing the appropriate city officials to enter into the 2 letters of agreement with WPPA/Lear Local 464, pending any legal language edits if necessary, and approval by WPPA/Lear Local 464. Lieutenant Cummings is with us, and Ian is with us.
I'll summarize the, well, I don't know which order you have them in, but one of the letters, side letters that's there addresses the kind of weird Fair Labor Standards Act provisions that apply to protective service or protect the fire department, police department hours. The normal 40-hour work week with overtime doesn't apply to those categories. But there is a requirement, in our contract, it specifies if they go over 172 hours in a four-week period of actual work, that we need to do a additional calculation to make sure that overtime is paid so that we're not in violation of the FLSA. The first part of that side letter addresses that. And we just need to add that language to the contract to make sure we're good. I don't anticipate it's going to happen all that often because of the other hours that are available for the officers to use. They would basically not have to use any, or have to not use any vacation, sick leave, comp time, work back, et cetera, in a 4-week period in order to, and work overtime in addition to cross that threshold. The other part of it is just adding flexibility so that if the police chief deems it, advisable, there can be paid, essentially paid participation in events. So something like Shop with a Cop or the color guard goes to some event, it allows those hours to be paid instead of basically volunteer.
Lieutenant Cummings?
Yes, the second part deals with the police liaison officers. We have 2 right now. We have one in the Joint 1 district and one in the high school district. Both school districts requested that those officers work a 9-hour day when school is in session. That way they're there for the beginning and the end of school. So to accommodate for that extra hour a day that they would work, we've come up with a solution. We call them work back hours, but it's also like a comp hour. It's the same thing. So those days of school with that extra hour they work, they will get to use that for days at school when there are no students in the building. So like over Christmas break, spring break, in-service days, things like that, they can use that time to take the day off instead of work patrol, for example. And the way it shakes out, it looks like both the officers would have maybe between 5 to 12 hours remaining at the end of the school year. Then they would use those as soon as they can in the summer, and then they would just go to regular patrol duties as well. So we figured out a way to make it cost neutral and allow them to take those days off when there's no students in it.
All right, questions, comments for either one of these gentlemen? If not, back to you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. And for appropriate approval on the 2 letters of agreement for WPPA and Lear Local 464, I have Alderperson Fulop, second by Alderperson Garza.
Motion by Alderperson Fulop, seconded by Alderperson Garza, authorizing the appropriate city officials to enter into the 2 letters of agreement with WPPA/Lear Local 464, pending any legal language edits if necessary, and approval by WPPA/Lear Local 464.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Next, we have Utility, Chairman Turchi.
Thank you, Mayor. We have 2 items up for consideration tonight. And the first one is discussion and consideration purchasing transformers.
Yeah, so transformers are, or transformer manufacturers are still recommending or estimating lead times that are 2 years or 52 weeks or more. So because of this, we're constantly evaluating our inventory, making sure we have enough for our projects in Hartford and Slinger and also for emergencies. So we're proposing to purchase 40 transformers tonight, pad mount transformers. For this order, we requested quotes from 2 different vendors, and Resco came back with the lowest price at $207,720. They also had a lead time of only 26 weeks rather than the 52. So I would recommend moving forward with the purchase from Resco. This was discussed at the utility committee level, and there was one question about the warranty. B&B Transformers offered a warranty of 3 years, while Resco's warranty was 2 years. I talked to Resco about this, and they said they were still only going to honor the 2-year warranty. But just so you have a little peace of mind, the warranty is, or we've never had to use the warranty from ERMCO yet. We've been using ERMCO transformers from Resco for about 8 or 10 years now, so I guess that would be it for that, so.
I got a question on warranty.
Oh,
Questions honored.
So in the warranty, when does it start? When we buy them, from the date of purchase, or is that from the date of installation?
Upon delivery.
Okay. Thank you.
Jeff?
I asked. If it starts when we use them, but that's a good one. I'm not gonna ask you more questions, because I got battered in the utility committee too, but I do have one. What's the typical life of one of these transformers?
Probably 35, 40 years.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Go ahead.
You're gonna get 40 transformers. In good times, how long will those last you in inventory?
We keep a majority of our transformers inside so they can last a long time. They're
A
not-
couple years, 4 years, 6 years?
40 last year.
How long will 40 transformers last? Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, you're gonna get 40 of them. How long will that be in your inventory?
It depends on growth. Right now, Slinger has a lot of projects going on, so it could last maybe 6 months by the time, 6, 8 months, a year. So,
They turn pretty quick.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Any other?
yeah, actually, I have a question, Brian. I think it's great that we're planning ahead, okay? But I know that, being a member of an organization as far as with our power company is concerned and with WPPI, and that I just don't want to become the de facto bank for, hey, Hartford, you bought those things and we could really use them. If that's the case, I'll be honest, I would want a sizable markup on what we're doing, because we're not here to help those who are not planning ahead and not spending taxpayer money to put it on a shelf. Okay, we're doing it for our folks here in Hartford and for those communities like Slinger that we service.
Right.
And, I'm reticent about that. It makes a lot of sense for us to do this, but, we shouldn't be in a position where other people then are just looking around because they didn't plan, and we become their go-to. I mean, that's on them, not on us.
correct. And there are communities like that out there that don't plan very well. And quite honestly, we do a very good job planning and making sure we have enough inventory for
Okay.
our projects.
So when they come knocking on our door because of their failure to plan,
Usually, we work with the utilities that we're comfortable working with. Usually, our voltage dictates kind of how we get to work with other utilities also. But for the most part, I mean, we help people out when we have to or when we can if they need it. Otherwise, we don't want to leave
You're not-
anybody out hanging there.
You're being too soft on answering my question. Well, again, what I'm interested in making sure that if we're paying, I mean, if we do the math on this, 207,000 for 40, help me out real quick. How much is that per?
It's about $5,100 a transformer.
I'm sorry?
$5,100 a transformer.
$5,100. So, I mean, if we charge them $6,000, are we committing a mortal sin because of the fact that we're being their transformer bank?
No,
Or-
not at all. And it doesn't happen that often.
Okay.
It's quite, I don't want to say it's rare, but I mean, it happens occasionally. There's 81 other utilities that a utility can lean on to help them out. And
Right, and-
it depends on location, so we're typically helping
and-
Cedarburg,
Right, and
Oconomowoc.
please understand, I mean, if there's a tornado, if there's a natural disaster, anything, that's a whole different story, okay? But if it's just we've got this new thing that's going on, and they're not gonna have enough over the time that they're building it, and can we buy from you? Because we got a 52-week thing.
Right.
I'd rather have you break out the violins than cash in on our stash that we're spending taxpayer money on.
Yeah, and we always make sure that we have enough for our projects no matter
Right,
what, so.
understood, thank you. I'm such a meanie.
Any other questions or comments? If not, back to you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Okay, for the purchasing of 4050 kVA pad-mounted transformers. Joe and Joe, you can pick one.
Okay, I always mess that up then. Motion by Alderperson Fulop, seconded by Alderperson Kohler, approving the purchase of 4050 kVA pad-mounted transformers from Resco at a cost not to exceed $207,720.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, Chairman Turchi.
All right, second item, discussion consideration fixing the roof.
Yeah, so earlier this summer, we inspected the roof at, or the actual reservoir at Well 10. Well 10 is located on the south side of Pike Lake on Eagle Point Road. At this site, we have a groundwater well that pumps water into a 150,000 gallon reservoir, and then from there it pumps water into our distribution system. We're required by the DNR to inspect this every 5 years, or all of our water towers and reservoirs. The inspection was completed by Dixon Engineering this year, and as part of that inspection, the well was taken out of service, and a soak test was performed, which is basically putting a sprinkler on top of the well or the reservoir and to see if it leaks. And we ended up finding a leak on the reservoir roof, and so that has been taken out of service and remains out of service until the repairs are made. So we did work with our consulting water engineer, Baxter and Woodman. They helped us put together a plan and a spec that could get approved by the DNR. The DNR gave us approval in early August to move forward with a plan to replace the roof. And so then we worked with 3 different contractors. They looked at the specs, gave us bids back or quotes back. And V&K Roofing provided the lowest quote at $56,300. Which is actually a very good price. When we first started looking at this, we were expecting about $150,000 to $170,000 for the repair. So $56,300 sounds pretty good right now. So I recommend moving forward with VNF Roofing. This was approved by the utility committee last Monday or last Tuesday. And we've done a little bit of repair on this already. I have a couple of pictures. So that's the well house. And there's a cone here for reference. And this is the reservoir here. It's covered with sod. That's the access hatch that would get replaced. And this is just a different view. That's the vent pipe for the reservoir,
Where's the leak?
somewhere in there.
In the roof, in the roof.
So this is the reservoir. It's about 13 feet deep. We excavated around the perimeter of the reservoir, pulled the sod off, and we used a local contractor to help us out with that so we could save some expense from the contractor that we were going to hire. So when this is done, this will have a rubber membrane on top of it. We'll have a curbing along the side or on the perimeter. And it'll have a river rock ballast on top of it to hold the rubber membrane down. So I did meet and talk with V&K in anticipation of approval. They said that they would be able to start this project by the end of September or early October. It's about a 7 to 10 day project for them.
Any questions, comments? Yes.
Is there a warranty that goes with that?
Yes. It's John's Manfield Roofing System. There's a 20-year warranty on that and a 2-year workman or
Labor?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? If not, back to you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, for entering into an agreement with VNF Roofing for appropriate repairs not to exceed $56,300. Alderperson Carroll, Alderperson Turchy.
Motion by Alderperson Carroll, seconded by Alderperson Turchy to enter into an agreement with VNF Roofing to make the appropriate repairs as required by the DNR for a price not to exceed $56,300.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, resolutions and possible action. They're on item number 10. Resolution number 3653, levying special assessments for unpaid Hartford utility accounts, business improvement district assessments, and assessments for special services on the 2023 tax roll. And who's taking that? Is that,
I'll give it a shot.
okay, thank you, Steve.
So every year, we go through this process in which, again, at a certain period of time, we have to cut off any unpaid Hartford utility accounts or business improvement district assessments or assessments for special services, and then we add them to the tax roll. This is the time of the period in which we do that, and so your approval tonight is just to simply, again, apply those to their 2023 taxes. Any questions?
No questions? Would look for a motion to approve. Alderperson Reagan, second by Alderperson Turchy.
Motion by Alderperson Reagan, seconded by Alderperson Turchy for the adoption of proposed resolution 3653, which is a resolution levying special assessments for unpaid Hartford utility accounts, business improvement district assessments, and assessments for special services on the 2023 tax roll.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Item B, Resolution 3654, resolution recommending the vacation of 5,423 square feet of right-of-way land adjacent to 2519 County Trunk Highway K. It's getting a vacation.
A very nice one. All paid by the county. All right, so Washington County is looking to vacate about .125 acres, or as the mayor said, 5,432 square feet. It's kind of at the intersection of County Trunk Highway E and K, just south of the town. Really no issues. They did make the changes for the sewer pack wetland delineation on the CSN that they submitted to us. After we had submitted this, we had found out from the county that if you look at, we have a condition number 2, outlot 1 shall be combined with 2519 County Trunk Highway K. The reality is, the reason why it was kept separate is that outlot is actually in the town of Erin, whereas 2519 County Trunk Highway K is in the town of Hartford, so they can't combine the two lots together to make one lot. So I'm asking on the resolution just to remove that second condition, but otherwise everything is good to go from the CSM standpoint of view and from the resolution.
Okay, thank you. Would look for any questions or comments for staff. If not, would look for a motion to approve. Boy, nobody's moving fast. Yes.
I'll make a motion with his recommendation to separate the two.
Okay. Alderperson Reagan, second by Alderperson Carroll.
Motion by Alderperson Reagan, seconded by Alderperson Carroll for the adoption of proposed resolution number 3654, which is a resolution recommending the vacation of 5,423 square feet of right-of-way land adjacent to 2519 County Highway Trunk K.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Going to ordinances for first reading. Ordinance number 1472. This is an ordinance creating section 4.39 of the municipal code and amending chapter 42 of the municipal code relating to the enforcement of the municipal code and bond schedule. We have with us our city attorney, Ian Proust.
So this ordinance is trying to address a problem we've run into, and this initially came up as the police department was trying to set up access for the planning department to input their own citations. And the issue is that some of the chapters don't explicitly say who has the authority to enforce the ordinances within that chapter. it's pretty obvious that the police department has the ability to issue citations under the chapters, but what we wanted to do was make it clear who has that authority. The intent of 4.39 is just to lay that out by chapter so that you can see who has the ability to enforce each and every chapter. The intent is not to create an obligation to do that. It's basically to add flexibility in case somebody needs to, like there's some of them that have multiple height of structures and trees at the airport. Likely it would be the Public Works enforcing that because Daryl manages the airport, but it could be the city engineer or planning and zoning or the building inspector. So we just added flexibility to be able to enforce that. The second two portions of this are changes to Chapter 42. First one is to make sure that if we set a fee in Chapter 42, and overlook the fact that there was an old reference to a different fee amount within the actual ordinance chapter, that the fee we set in Chapter 42 is what controls. We set up Chapter 42 so that all the fees and forfeitures, everything is in one place. We want to have that there, and we don't want to risk having conflicting language screw that up. And then the other thing we did was just establish general violation amounts for the chapter. Some chapters have only one violation amount for any ordinance violation, some divided up into multiple different citation, bond amounts based on the different citations, but they don't all contain a generic general violations of this chapter. So if we have some type of unusual violation, there may not be a forfeiture amount in the code. This just remedies that for each chapter and make sure we're covered if something comes up, because we've run into that recently as well. So. Pretty straightforward, just some cleanup to make sure that we can enforce our own code efficiently.
Thank you. Any questions for Ian? Go ahead, Alderperson Fulop.
So I'm looking like Chapter 8 Parks General Violation. It says, hey, the first time, or it has some like deposit amount for $100 and it
Yep.
goes, can you kind of explain that sequence to me?
Yep,
I'm
so-
not educated on this.
So this is the forfeiture table that's established by the Mid-Moraine Municipal Court. So the bond amount, the deposit amount is like the fine that is actually paid. There's an assessment that goes to, not sure where the 26% assessment goes to, and then there's the other fees, like the county jail assessment, crime lab fee, municipal court costs. Those are all established by the courts, so if we say a fine is $100, that's the first line, but the rest of them are the fee, the additional fees established by the court.
So in that case, for the parks, is it somebody violated something in the parks, or is it a
Yep.
violation of?
It would be a violation of one of the provisions, you're there after hours or something like that.
Got it.
You get your first offense, the actual total would be $187
Yeah,
for the
got it.
forfeiture.
Okay, that just
Yep.
pieces everything together as to
Correct.
where the breakdown is. Okay, thank
Yep.
you. Nothing
So
else,
if you're
Mayor.
in the park after hours, and a police officer pulls you up, the ticket is $187.
Yep.
Boy, that'll keep you out of the park after hours.
Yeah, and a lot of those are set, again, by standard fee schedules across Mid-Moraine. This is just adding generic, violations, because, I mean, Chapter 1, or Chapter 2, how are we gonna violate the boundaries of the city? I don't know, let's just have one on the books in case something weird comes up, so.
Yeah, that caught my attention as well. Sorry,
Right.
Mayor.
No,
Like common counsel, what can I do here to get quite a fine, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain rules and there's, I don't know, if there is something you could issue a violation for, we're just establishing.
Which an event that would happen during this council event.
I mean,
Okay.
I didn't look closely
All right.
at every single thing to parse
It was
out
just
whether
curious
there
to
was
me
a
when I read
violation
through.
that could
Yeah,
occur.
I get it. Okay.
I get that there's some of the chapters where it's pretty far-fetched that there would be something, but we gotta have something on the books, otherwise if that unusual event comes up, we can't enforce it.
Well, the mayor speaks out of turn sometime. That's kind of what I was wondering, if you penalize him for that.
Or he throws a tomato at somebody.
Well, actually, I'll
going
give you an example that could occur. I mean, it's possible that like a closed session violation,
Yeah,
it could occur that there's a citation because everybody went into closed session when they shouldn't have, or something like that. I mean, those are citations that can happen, so.
thank you.
Then we find ourselves.
That's right.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, well, this is a first reading, so if you'd like to move forward on ordinance number
I
1472,
do
we would
have a
have to have a
question.
motion to suspend the rules.
I do have a question.
Okay, well.
Is it still a question period, or are you just moving on?
Oh, well, it depends. I mean,
Give 'em a-
what's your question?
It's a good question. We'll answer.
Might get fined, who knows?
That's right.
Question about the citations.
Yes.
So is this common practice in most municipalities that other than the police department would issue a citation?
Yes. So, I mean, it varies. Traditionally, planning and zoning has had the ability to issue paper citations. The Mid-Moraine Municipal Court is moving towards a more digital platform to issue the citations. Sure. Lieutenant Cummings could speak to that if you needed him to, but this first came up when we were just discussing giving like a portal access to issue those citations to planning and zoning, and we realized there weren't these specifics that were needed to grant that access. It isn't unusual to have the ability to issue citations amongst different departments. How often that happens versus how often you just direct the police department to issue the citation, kind of
Yeah.
varies community to community.
Yeah, because I guess my concern is that if I'm just citizen, which I am, generally, if I would get a citation, I would think it would come from the police department, not from a city administrative employee. That's how my first reaction would be. If somebody would come up to me and say, you violated something and here's your citation, I would say, you're not a police officer. Why were you giving me a citation?
That's not what you'd say.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think.
I
it
would probably say
depends.
something else, but I don't want to get
I
fined
think
during
it
this
depends on the
meeting.
context. If it's a zoning violation, it's gonna come from planning and zoning.
Yeah, I understand
if
that. There's
it's-
certain,
Yeah.
certain things, but
Correct.
just in general,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that the public would know that there's a potential for someone other than
Yep.
an officer issuing a citation, and we don't get into all kinds of,
Yep.
like, you can't do that, yada, right, all that stuff. So I
This
just want to make the
is,
public
this is
aware. of what-
clarifying that. Some of these chapters already have provisions that allow, this is just adding it, making it clear. Again, kind of like with chapter 42, where we have everything in one spot. It's all in one spot. If you need to know who can enforce the code, you go look at this chapter. This is kind of the definitive answer for any given situation to see if you have that authority.
Right.
So,
So I just want to make sure that the
Yeah.
public knows that
now,
there are, yeah.
depending on circumstances, practically speaking, we may be having, it may be that engineering issues the citation, but the police department is the one who serves it just for
Enforces it,
documentation
yeah.
purposes. But, yeah, I mean, citations regularly come from other departments based on, if it's an issue that falls under their like, if it's a cross-connection issue, it could come from the water department,
Understood.
Go ahead.
I have a follow-up then. So just so we're clear, so they're just following, I would say, there's no interpretation aspect in this, right? If they violate a condition of any of these chapters, it's fairly clear, right?
Yes.
There's not like, hey, he's got discretionary burden that he can put on somebody. Am I,
Well,
am I,
I mean, there's always discretion within any part of the code. I mean, look at speeding tickets, right? You're going over the speeding limit, you're not necessarily gonna be pulled over if you're two over. There's always discretion in enforcement. The property maintenance enforcement was before you, a month or so ago. Just like that, I mean, these are usually not things, I mean, you got the being after parks after hours or something like that. Sure, that might be a citation right off the bat, but a lot of the other stuff with like planning and zoning or engineering or those things, these aren't shocks to people who are getting the citations typically. There's been warning letters that have been sent, there's been phone calls that have been made,
Okay.
discussions that have happened to notify people that they're in non-compliance, because the goal is never just to cite people for the purpose of citing them.
okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, if we wanted to move forward, we'd again need to suspend the rules. Go ahead.
Motion to
For
suspend the
suspension-
rules.
For suspension. Okay, Alderperson Fulop, Alderperson Carroll.
Motion by Alderperson Fulop, seconded by Alderperson Carroll to suspend the rules for immediate consideration of proposed ordinance number 1472.
For suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, now for acceptance of ordinance number 1472. Alderperson Carroll, Alderperson Fulham.
Motion by Alderperson Carroll, seconded by Alderperson Fulop for the adoption of proposed ordinance number 1472.
Hearing no other questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Next one is ordinance, strangely enough, 1473. An ordinance amending Chapter 42 of the Municipal Code relating to public records fees. Is this Ian again?
Yes. So in the process of reviewing some recent open records requests, it was, or I noticed, also the new city clerk noticed, that our records copy fees were far outside of where they should have been. So this is just changing it from the 30 cents a page that we had previously, which is far more than should be charged, to a more reasonable 15 cents for black and white, 25 cents for color. I attempted to base this on how much the cost of the copiers are, kind of spread across the number of copies we have. Also, the maintenance contracts, we have maintenance contracts that include toner and everything per page, and the cost of paper, et cetera.
Did you include the $10,000 we just spent for a copy or for the parking record? Okay, just wanted to make sure.
I tried to determine how much the clerk's office copier would have been when it was new and how many copies we've made. For reference, it was around 600,000 copies on that one machine since we bought it like 10 to 15 years ago, and estimated out a cost there. So the public records laws allow us to recoup costs. They don't allow us to charge more than, it can't be a profit center. So this brings it into a more reasonable realm based on what our actual costs are.
Appreciate it. I hope that's the headline tomorrow, that Hartford reduces costs, come and make your copies here. Kidding. Alderperson Fulop.
So let me understand this a little more. Does this cost factor include labor to be able to generate that as well?
So that is not a cost you can recoup directly. The only labor you can recoup in open records requests is the search fees.
The what?
Is the search fees. So if we have to spend 4 hours looking for documents, we can bill the expense for the lowest qualified person to do that.
And then you estimated that in this piece or not?
Nope, that is not included in this. That is quoted based on.
That's a separate,
Yeah,
that's a
correct.
separate fee that we.
That
Okay.
depends on who has access to those records, who can do the search, how complicated it is, et cetera.
So this is a set of records that people want to make a copy of. How do we address it when we want to give it to them in digital form or PDF or something like that, where it doesn't include a copy machine? What are those fee programs?
So at that point, there's no real direct expense to us at that stage. It's just, that would be largely incorporated into the search fee, right?
Okay.
So as part of the search fee, you're scanning the documents as you do them, producing the PDF. So,
Got it. So when we're doing searches, we're not searching physical media, we're searching through online?
no, it could be physical media. I mean, if it's building permits, we're searching files for
But then
building
I'm going
permits.
to scan those documents. Is that part of this fee you're talking about?
That's part of the search fee. 'Cause
Got it.
You're
Okay.
searking for it, you're scanning the document, you're searching for it, scanning the
Thanks, Ian.
document.
Thanks,
You're
Mayor.
wrecking my headline.
There'll be no headline.
No headline, yeah, well, okay. Okay, for ordinance 1473, because this is a first reading, we'll need a motion to
Motion,
suspend. Alderperson Fulop, Alderperson Carroll.
Motion by Alderperson Fulop, seconded by Alderperson Carroll to suspend the rules for immediate consideration of proposed ordinance number 1473.
For suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, and now for passage of ordinance 1473. Alderperson Garza, Alderperson Savage.
Motion by Alderperson Garza, seconded by Alderperson Savage for the adoption of proposed ordinance number 1473.
For approval, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you. Next, we have the city administrator's report. That would be our city administrator, Steve Volkert.
Is this separate than what was in here?
It is. It's updated.
Thank you.
Okay. So before you tonight, you all received a copy of your 2-inch thick CIP budget for the next 5 years. You've all gotten a chance to study it, ask any questions. So I'm just looking for approval. No, I'm just kidding. Let me go over it real quickly. Again, this is a 5-year CIP. When we look at the CIP, for those who are new, the biggest thing that we look at, of course, is not only the item in which we're purchasing, the price in which we're getting it for or doing the project for, but also is where the funds are coming from. Okay, so most of the CIP projects will come from one of a couple areas. One is grants, grants primarily. The other ones are TID or other long-term borrowing. Special assessments, a lot of our stuff comes out of special assessments, and fund balance. And there are several fund balances throughout the city. So the rec center has a fund balance, the library has a fund balance, the general fund has a fund balance, utilities all have fund balances. So again, when you look at those, primarily I'm looking at the governmental funds summary pages, which is in the front of your book. The other one is general obligation debt. Okay, so general obligation debt is there's two parts to your tax. It's the debt on levy and then your operational costs on levy. So the debt on levy is the largest percentage, which again dictates how much we'll borrow every 2 years for CIP projects. So the budget's before you today. Again, staff presents capital 5-year budget, addresses the most pressing long-term needs while attempting to have the least impact on the tax rate over the next 10 years. Again, for the new members, all of our borrowing that we do for capital items is 10 years, unless the item is a building project. So like when we built the library, we renovated the city hall in 2014, 2015. When we built the rec center in 2000, those are all 20-year loans. So just so you understand how this works. Couple of things in the next 2 years that we're looking to do. Continue to have 2 total road reconstruction projects, both in 24 and 25. One of them that we're doing in 24 is a much larger project, and thus carries a little higher price tag. The reconstructing of the west side of Main Street downtown sidewalks in 24, and then followed by the east side done in 2025. And we've been talking with the downtown bid district regarding those. Take the first steps of a sidewalk bike trail completion at Lakeview Acres. Prepare to fix the Mill Pond Dam. When the water was down, when we were doing the north wall of the Mill Pond, we identified, our engineer identified, that there is structural issues with the dam. And so we will do the study for that in 2024 and look to receive a grant to do the project through the DNR in the following years. Ongoing stormwater projects, again, we talk about this every year. Stormwater and getting our MS4 permit continues to be tougher and tougher. We, as you probably know, you did approve to actually hire an engineer to do stormwater for us, and we're looking to bring them on yet this year. So stormwater projects continue to be a major issue. Remodeling the fire station, which is greatly needed. We continue to be reminded that from the fire chief. Long-awaited parking lot update in Independence Park. For those that have used that park in the past, you know the need for that. The VMAC pool heater replacements, that's a new one, which comes as a great surprise. But the pool heaters, we had some major issues with them, and we need to replace those heaters. Refurbishing an ambulance, 1651. This has been on the budget for the last 5 years. And also updating and maintaining other municipal buildings, roads, alleys, which is new. I believe it was President Rusniak who brought forward the petition by those individuals who lived on a specific alleyway. And we took a look at, and if you probably remember, our city engineer, John Griffin, presented a list of the greatest needs of our alleys. So this starts to address that. We also have normal plans to replace 2 trucks, plows with wings if available. I say that if available because, again, just like everything else, sometimes you order it, we don't get it for 2-3 years. And again, these have already been delayed on timeframes on previous years. The general obligation borrowing for 24-25 projects is hitting a higher than normal level due to exceedingly higher prices of everything. Road projects are up 20 to 30%. Vehicles, 20% easily. Our past 2-year borrowings have been between $3 and $5 million range based on what projects we are doing. The 24 and 26 borrowings are estimated to be $5.5 million and $6.5 million respectively. For 2024, the borrowing actually is down $1 million. We're actually going to do $6.5 million worth of projects, but we have got $1 million left over from prior borrowings. So we will only have to borrow 5.5. In 2026, we're looking at borrowing 6.5. 2.4 of that will be for the fire station number 2. So that's the reason that for such a large increase.
What year was that?
2026.
Thank you.
So basically, you have gotten a copy of this. I just gave you tonight as an updated debt projection over the next several years. A couple things when we talk about debt and debt on levy is the fact of debt on levy really has to do with, the total amount of debt that we have to pay, but what that does to the tax rate is very, it's a best guesstimate based on a whole lot of assumptions. One of the assumptions that we talk about, and by the way, the debt on, or the impact on levy is found on that second page I handed out, which says tax rate increase, decrease with CIP budget debt increase for 2024. There's a lot of assumptions there. Again, assumes no growth in the tax base. We know that we're averaging about 3%. It assumes operational budget stays within the growth. Again, we talk about the large increase in the debt payment in 2034, which is projected, which again will be leveled off through refinancing prior to that. As most of you who have ever had recently a financing for a home, they're saying, take it for what it is now, you'll refinance probably in another year or 2 years. And we've been looking to do the same thing. All these numbers are based on the current true interest cost, otherwise known as TIC, which currently is being estimated at 3.994. We confirmed that with our financial advisor, Jeff Balaja, and said, yes, that would be a very conservative number right now. Again, our total borrowing does go down to originally assumed levels starting in 2028, and also assumes the average house. When we talk about on this sheet specifically of what that will increase would look like, increase or decrease looks like on the average home we're talking about is a $300,000 home. So again, do the math in your own head if your house is $200,000 or if it's $600,000. Anyways, so that's where we come up with these numbers. So I have received a couple of questions on a couple of things, and I'll just kind of reiterate those. And Alderperson Rusniak, if I forget some of your questions, please remind me. There are questions, a couple that you had to do with, again, the Mill Pond Dam replacement. Again, year 1 will be the study, and that's what we'll be paying for. The second part to that will be the actual fixing of that dam, and we expect to get a DNR grant to help us with that. That's why you don't see it in the second year project. Other questions you had to do with the library, I believe?
Let's go back to the dam. There must be other grants that'd be available, though, don't you think, on the dam?
Yeah,
repair?
that's what we're saying, a DNR grant to actually do the fixing, but the actual study of it would be done by us, would have to be paid
There's
for
some
by
damn
us.
grants out there, so. Okay.
Other questions you have, and I apologize, I didn't,
The airport terminal building.
Yep.
Our CIP said it was a $500,000.
right, and those numbers are incorrect. It's a $700,000.
$700,000, right.
And so 5% of that's the 35,000 that you see in the budget.
The rest is
5%
90%
city
federal?
portions, 5% state, and then the remaining 90% would be from the federal. By the way, the 5% that we pay is actually our equity in the building. So we would actually not have to pay any actual cash for that improvement.
Super.
Any other questions that you had that I forgot? I mean,
The
while you're.
library siding replacement came out to $450,000.
Yes.
But fortunately, the library has the funds to cover this, so it seemed excessive, but I know nothing about siding. I know nothing about what it should be, but it is covered by funding.
Yeah, and again, we're checking with every option that we can as far as getting the cost of that siding down. But we are budgeting the $450,000. Again, that will be covered under the fund balance of the library, as I mentioned earlier. These different departments, some of these different departments will have their own fund balance, and they have sufficient funds to cover that improvement. Also, they have, later on in the budget, they also talked about another portion of the exterior to be stained.
Right.
And Alderperson Churchy brought that up just prior to the meeting. And again, that's something that they will be able to pay for themselves. It's not coming out of, directly out of levy funds. But again, that is something that we'll work on closer to that time period. Yes?
Since we're on the library, and we talked about this, and you're talking about new material, I mean, you know, one of the big things is that the library isn't that old, and the cost of resurfacing it and staining it and all the work we've put into that over the last several years. I'm presuming that some of this cost is because you're using a material that's going to last a heck of a lot longer than what we currently have on that building to maintain.
Yeah, and the exteriors, as you're all very well aware, a lot of the exterior of that building has not worked out to the level that we had hoped. And from the roof to the
Very
garden,
euphemistic.
the roof garden, to the, now the siding and the staining. And besides that, it's all been great. But anyway, so yes, it is, you know, the existing siding is failing in several areas, causing issues with the building structure itself. And so getting that fixed is very important.
Yeah, and 'cause I just remember that came up, and that was one thing that we talked on the last time is that would be the last time we'll approve something to that effect in that cost. So next time when you do it, you do have to do it right with the different material.
Yeah.
That's a lot less, and that's what it comes down to the question that I think you said Jeff asked earlier, Alderman Churchy asked earlier on the staining, because that was a big check at that time too. And that's,
Yeah.
I know it started that conversation, so. Thank you.
Any other questions?
My question here is it's a discussion and consideration of the 24-28 CIP budget. So you're asking us to pass this in total?
That's correct. That's what we do every year.
Right. Because my issue would be as regards to, now when you're talking, what are we looking at as far as, you have an annual growth factor is 3%, and some of the percentages that you have going on here, when you state on your sheet, I think it's the second sheet, increase, that increase, you have 2024 0.43, 2025 2.77, 2026 6.64. Are you talking tax increase? That's
That would be the increase of debt on levy.
debt on levy. Okay, so we're not necessarily talking, well, what I'm very interested in doing, especially, and I'm sure you get stopped quite a bit too, but I definitely do when I'm going to any one of the local stores which we like to frequent. And there are some people out there that are really hurting with the what's going on right now. And I want to make sure that we keep everything whole. But we have an undesignated fund balance, of course, which can and I believe should be used for things like this. So we're not increasing taxes on people who don't have any place to go. I mean, their income is being held fairly static, and they're seeing compounded rates of inflation that's just bending them over, and it makes it very difficult. I mean, some of the simple things did come down when we had ridiculous egg prices, and then that kind of came back down and stuff, but gas is still high. I think the biggest thing from my perspective, and it's got to be impacting a lot of individuals, especially those people who are holding a couple of jobs in that and who go out for a quick bite to eat, pick something up and please, I'm not trying to slight any other restaurant, okay, but if you stop at a McDonald's, if you stop at a Taco Bell or something, the prices of those places the increases are jaw-dropping when you look at them as a percentage over the last 2.5 years. And this is one of those things where it's alarming to me to think that people who are paying the taxes are not going to be able to maintain anywhere near the lifestyle that they're looking. And I've had people already telling me, "Gee, we don't go out to eat anymore. Gee, we don't do a number of things that we used to do because we literally can't afford them." And so what I'm asking for is, if we've got this undesignated fund balance, which I've always jokingly said over the years, it's the, "Gee, we charged you too much, but we're not giving it back to you" balance. We hold more than we are obligated to hold based on the financial reports that I've heard over the years, that there is a specific amount that we want to keep in order to be able to maintain a bond rating, but we have millions of dollars in that beyond that dollar amount. And I would like to see those dollars within the next 24 months used to offset any real possible tax increase, or I'm going to veto whatever is signed. And we'll go around the dais and let everybody vote to raise people's taxes. Dennis, I appreciate what you're saying, but I don't want my taxes raised, and there are a lot of people who can't afford it. So as much as I want to do with keeping up on the roads, obviously police and fire get what they need. We've always said that, and I think we'll always do it. But I mean, if we need to push some of these things through, my thing would be use our undesignated fund balance and do not raise the taxes until we can get this, see what's happening with this economy, because we have a confiscatory tax policy. Don't pay your taxes, we take your house, we confiscate it. That to me is extraordinary, and I just don't want to see people, put in a position where lifestyles will change dramatically based on this economy, because we just want to keep everything going. That's fine, but then let's use the money we have in our piggy bank in order to do it, rather than hit people when they're on their knees with this inflation. So, just so you know.
I guess you're passing the budget tonight based on the numbers I'm giving you. I can't tell you today if this is going to raise your taxes. If I'm making a lot of presumptions, which again is spelled out on that sheet.
Right.
And if all my presumptions are correct, which there's likelihood of zero, that and Aaron Rodgers playing for the Packers next Sunday. The bottom line, I had to bring him up because everyone else talks about him. But anyways, the bottom line is that if all things are equal, and all things do come true, in 2024 alone, your mill rate would go up, or a tax on a house of $300,000 would go up $6 just on debt. $6. Your normal city taxes is $1,407. It'd go up to from $1,401. It'd go up to $1,407. So it's $6 to absorb this. The average over 4 years is, I think I had it on here too, an increase of $24 on average total over the next 4 years.
And that's at a $300,000 house, not $100,000 times 3. Correct? Yeah,
correct.
That's what you're doing. Okay.
$300,000 house.
Yeah.
So if you had a $100,000 house, it's $8. Your total tax for the city would go up just for debt alone. So I'm making sure that I'm not hiding anything from anybody here.
Right.
But we understand. And again, I'm not philosophically different than the mayor. I'm saying because the things are going up in price, for us to maintain the roads, for us to maintain the vehicles, for us to maintain the equipment, you're either going to cut some of those things, go with the mayor's suggestion of pulling it from your fund balance. I'm not adverse to the concept, although, of course, you can only do that for so long.
Oh, true.
And it might come back to bite you later on when you go to bond rating. But again, the other option is to absorb that or look to accept the $6 tax increase.
Okay, this is only half of our budget, though, obviously.
It is,
Right.
yeah.
The other half is where the rubber really meets the road as regards to expense.
Operational, sure.
Correct.
Now, operational, again, I bring this up for the two new members of the council. Operation is somewhat subdued by the state. So because levy limits, expenditure restraints, you can only raise it to a certain percentage equal to the growth of your community, which means if the community is growing 3%, you can raise 3%, which means you have zero, right? Zero balance. So this is really the biggest area in which your taxes can flow up or down is based on debt on levy. So, Alderperson Fulop.
So, question on the prioritization. I thought we did an exercise a few years ago on this CIP budget. What are you deciding goes into 2024 and what gets decided into 2025? Is it just you
Yeah,
kind of
so
throwing it out there and doing a prioritization? My question is more of, do we do a large project for a significant amount, or do we do a bunch of small projects that are a lot smaller that would have a greater impact on the community? Who's making that assessment, and how do you do that prioritization?
Well, just to start off at the top of the heap, the biggest projects or expenses that we have is the cost for road construction. So those will be anywhere from $650,000 up to $1.1 million, right?
I noticed, yeah.
What's that?
I said I noticed.
Yeah. And so those projects specifically, and I'm talking about that's not the total project, that's just the street portion of the borrowing. Those projects, we try to always do at least 2 major projects of those street projects a year. To go back to what Dennis had talked about, maintaining a certain lane mile, we want to do, again, the worst of those projects. Worst means those projects where the street is the most deteriorated, has the lowest PASER rating, and where the infrastructure underneath it has the greatest problems.
You want to explain PASER rating for the new
Yep.
folks, just so they know?
So every year we have to do what it's called a PASER rating. So I go out by your street and we look at cracks and deterioration of the road, and potholes, things like that. And we give it a rating, like a 1 to 10, just like you did, anything else. The average for the city is about a 6, okay? Which means we've got some 10s and we got some 1s. But anyways, that's where we're at. And so when we look at those PASER ratings, we go, all right, we obviously want to address the 1s first and get them back up to a 10 to help our overall PASER rating. The city, overall, our PASER rating is pretty average for a community of our size. 6 is probably pretty average. 7 and 8 is, very good. 8 is exceptional, actually, probably. Because the older parts of your city normally have the worst streets, right? So that's what we look at. That's the biggest thing. And then, of course, the vehicles are the next thing. And we look at the oldest vehicles, the ones that need to be flipped next. And, of course, the biggest ones are going to be the most expensive vehicles, aren't going to be my squad cars or squad SUVs or squad pickup trucks, but it's going to be our ambulances, our fire trucks, as the mayor talked about before. So those are the
Back
biggest
to my
ones.
original question, who's setting that prioritization? That's you, that's the
The
council?
the departments themselves will review that which they oversee. So John, who's in the audience, our city engineer, will work along with Brian and also Dan to take a look at the individual streets and come up with their list of the biggest needs. And then the
Okay.
3 of them work together on what they find is the biggest need.
So the mayor brought up the fund balance conversation as to, hey, there's a significant amount, can we leverage that to somewhere else? You made a comment that says, hey, if we reduce the fund balance, then it's going to impact our bond rating. Do we know what that threshold is based on how big our
We
community
can.
is?
We talk about that every year, and unfortunately, it's one of those things that you never know exactly what our bond council will, or the bond rating agency will dictate. We are currently AA2, We cannot be any higher for a community of our size. However, when we've asked the bond rating, Quarles and Brady, and said, if we went down from $6 million in fund balance down to $5 million, would that drop us? Well, I don't know. Depends upon a lot of things.
I guess is there another avenue to explore that? Do you look at other similar-sized communities that we have, look at what their bond rating is, compare it against what their fund balance is as well, to kind of look at the projection to say, hey, are they in a double A or are they in an A based on where they are with their fund balance?
Unfortunately, our rating, it's not as easy as comparing ourselves to others and look at their fund balance and look at, because there's 100 different things that they look at. The matrix is quite extensive. So they'll look at how many businesses do you currently have in your community? How much tax base do you currently, what's your growth of your housing? They look at so many different things that fund balance is a big part of it, but there's no way to correlate it exactly dollar for what that would mean to our rating.
How about a projection exercise that says, hey, I'm going to drop one level in fund balance because
Yeah.
in rating, because let's say I blow 2 million in these specialty projects, like these extra ones that weren't part of it, or for Wayne's project with respect to the alleyways and things like that. Can we be tactical with that expense, risk the lower bond rating, and understand what that impact is projection through 2034? Have we done that exercise?
It was a couple of years ago since the last time we looked at that, and, but we can review that again to find out if we drop to a AA3, what would that mean to us? I can have Jeff Belanger take a look at that.
Is that who always comes in and does our deal,
Jeff works with Huntington. So it used to be something else, but they got bought out. But anyways, so.
Because he's here every year and gives us
He
a
is.
great thing. And I would think with the fact that we have a long history with him, that exercise, I mean, we're not talking weeks of work. We're talking literally plugging a few
he could
things
easily
in.
pull it up
Right.
within 24 hours.
Right.
And then just a few personal notes of comment, which I don't normally make, but I will this time. Love to see the Independence Park being somewhat asphalted, so thank you for whoever is coordinating that. I'm assuming we're doing the drive-through as well for that, or is it just the lot itself in the middle, John? Sorry, can you?
Please come up to the microphone if you're making any comments. Thank you.
At this time, it is only the parking area, the large parking lot in the middle, but I like your idea.
Well, what I'd like to explore the fact that I got to drive through a series of potholes from the
get
street to get there. So can we put some consideration into that and have a look? Because although I know it's 84K, I don't know what the run rate is, but I know that driveway is going to need more than just 3 inches because it sinks every year, and I know you got complexity with the dump that was there and everything else, but I just put some consideration for that.
I will talk to Randy. This is his project, and I'm helping him get it set up, but I will certainly bring that up to him. I like it.
Right, and then the second opinion I think that I have, Stephen, appreciate you guys listening to it. We had talked about a while ago to shore up the security with our IT services, and that was, I think we did that through the standard expense budget, right?
Through the operational budget.
Right, so we shored up with the service that we have, they checked all our security, and
Comtech.
I see we've got some hardware here in the end of what we're calling, other projects, right? Where we want some CapEx for shoring that up. Can we make sure we're just aligned with the hardware versus the service that we had to ensure proper security? So the conversation I had with what the mayor brought up with the CIP budget is, can we look at some tactical, smaller dollar value projects that we don't think will risk our rating? And in my mind, need to shore it up. This would be a personal thing to me to ensure that security of our IT as well as the infrastructure for the city doesn't get violated. So that's my opinion. Thank you, Mayor.
Great.
Any other questions?
I have
Yes.
Please.
a couple of comments. I want to recognize the staff who put together the CIP budget. It's a lot of tedious work, right? So well done, well presented. Want to also give a little more kudos to my utility team. During our meeting, they summarized everything for the next from 24 to 28. Did a fantastic job. I would recommend to all the chairs that we follow the best practice of the utility committee, because it went really well. So instead of going through the book page by page, it was a great summary. So that was very helpful to understand in total how we're spending money. So I want to make that comment. The other thing on the fund balance, generally, right, we put all this together, right, there's assumptions made, right? Like, for example, the siding's 450,000. We haven't taken it out to bid, so we don't know what that is, right? So there's always surprises during the year, correct?
Absolutely.
And that's when generally staff comes back to the council and says, oh, by the way, we budgeted X and now it's Y. We might need to get some more money, and that's where that fund balance, right, comes into play. Sometimes we dig into that once in a while.
Yeah,
right?
so we also budget, we actually also budget to pull from the fund balance every year for any staff payouts that we project for retirements.
Right.
So that can be sizable. If you look back on our past budgets, that we've normally done about $250,000 worth of payouts.
Right, so that's where it's on. I mean, and I do echo the mayor's comments that we do not want to deliberately try to raise taxes, right? Especially during this time, so I'll agree on that point. But when we talk about like a $6 increase for debt on a $300,000, I think that's a pretty good start to a budget, right? We all budget during our, right? Some of us have to do that every year, every 6 months, every 3 months. We're always forecasting and budgeting. So I think a $6 increase is semi-reasonable for first go around.
And keep in mind, when I've always been very assertive in saying, don't run around screaming, yelling at everybody that the tax is going to go up, because we only control 1/5 of the budget, right, of the taxes, the city portion. Now, of course, if we can do all we can, and we can be budget neutral, but the school could turn around and, for whatever reason, and increase taxes, or vice versa. We could be increasing taxes, and they're lower taxes, and at the end of the day, the mayor is paying the same amount for his house, his taxes. So just be very careful when you talk about, raising taxes or not raising taxes. It's really, there's a whole lot of things that could change in the next 3 months before November 11th when we pass your budget.
Just a couple of things too, Jeff, saying you mentioned, and Steve also, regarding costs that do come up. We also had an example today of something we thought was going to be $150,000, and it was, what, $56,000. So that blade cuts both ways.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that's a utility. We can't take that.
But we do have excellent talent on this city staff for writing grants and getting things that have always been a surprise. And again, I have found, at least over the years that I've been on, that there's a tremendous evening of that. We don't normally see a spike because somewhere, somehow, we get money or didn't end up spending money that we would. My concern, of course, this time is because there's this looming inflation, which really we haven't dealt with. I mean, the ridiculously low interest rates that we've had for, the 15, 16 years I've been on the council, obviously are upside down now. And for the last, like I said, 2.5 years, it's been a little bit more of a nightmare. And that's where my concern is coming from, because it's not only hitting the city. It's hitting everybody whose hands, whose pockets we shove our hand into to get that. And I do realize too, we are about 29% of the bill. So when people get that, you bring up an extraordinarily valid point that there are 4 other taxing entities that are going to affect that dollar amount. But we're responsible for a piece of it, and for that piece, I would hope that we can do something to alleviate. And again, because the budget is split in two, we're only seeing what I consider always the easy half. It's the next part when we're dealing with operations that it gets a little bit more complicated. So, anyway, go ahead, please, Steve.
That's all I have.
Okay, well then, so you're turning it back to me for a vote then, correct?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. The discussion and consideration of the 2024-2028 CIP budget Would look for a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Move to approve for Alderperson Reagan, second by Alderperson Fulop.
Motion by Alderperson Reagan, seconded by Alderperson Fulop, approving the 2024 to 2028 CIP budget.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No? Motion carried. Thank you. Steve, back to you.
Discussion consideration of deferring the park and rec fees for Skyway Park subdivision lots 87 through 73. You heard Tom Hosted talk about that at the beginning of our meeting. Again, the concept is this is all a part of our participation in trying to work with a local developer, a local property owner, in providing affordable housing. Affordable housing, I hate to use those phrases. I hate to use any phrase when it comes to housing because everyone takes it the wrong way. This is houses that are 320 to 420. What they're looking to build is 5 homes that will be $320,000 and 2 others that will be $420,000. They will be positioned in 7 lots that are located in the middle of the Sky Park subdivision. The Sky Park subdivision currently has nearly full lots, except for, I think, 2 that are still on the outsides of the circle. These, again, are being done by a local contractor who lives very close to that subdivision. He actually lives in that subdivision. But anyways, he is working with the county and to, again, start what we hope is several houses built, single-family owner-occupied homes in that price range. And again, as a part of our assistance to help with the overall project, we are, first of all, asking to defer the park and rec fees. Now, just a reminder, rec fees is not recreation. That is the residential equivalency hookup fees for sewer. So,
Unless you do your recreating in the sewer.
yeah. So anyways, the park and rec fees are normally paid for. I'll give you an example. A rec fee is about $5,600 and per unit, and a park fee is about $1,500, $1,600 right now, give or take a couple $100. But anyway, so those are the fees, and they're asking for them to be deferred from, again, what we normally do right now with everybody else is it's paid at the time that you take out your building permit to actually being paid once the house is sold to whoever ends up buying it. Again, these are spec homes. It's a little different situation than we normally have. A lot of times you're going to build a house, you're going to own the house and live in the house. And so you're the end up user. This is a situation where they're building 7 homes for other people in the future. So this is a part of our contribution towards this project. And again, it's a great first start to what we hope is many, many homes being built to help bring more people to the community of Hartford. Yes, Alderperson Turchy.
So when we say deferred, what do we think the deferment period's going to be?
Oh, I would say a year.
It's a ballpark, right? I know it's just an estimate, but go ahead.
About a year. They're looking to break ground on 2 houses yet next month. And then have them done within 9 months. And so you're looking at probably somebody buying them, I'm guessing, before they even finish the house, especially at that price range.
They're hoping.
So anyways.
We're deferring a year-ish, give or
A
take.
year, yeah.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Alderperson Rusniak.
I see no problem with this at all. We need to do something to spur some housing development in the city. And basically, this is not any money out of our pocket. This is a deferred payment. So I think it's a great idea. I would promote it highly, and I hope everybody else would go along with the idea.
Alderperson Fulop.
Yeah, we're only talking 50K anyhow, right? This is not that significant based on the numbers you told me. This is 7 homes. They would normally be hit, something like that. Is that right?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Sorry, based on the numbers you gave me, this is about 50,000 deferral for whatever they're doing. Total for the project. And normally they would take out 1 per each time they're building something, right? So it's
Yep,
even,
each-
so it's
each
even
time.
significantly less than that because it would be staggered regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm with.
Alderperson Kohler.
Oh, go ahead, Dennis.
This is the first time we've done something like this for a builder?
That's a great question. I do not know the answer to that question. I mean, in my timeframe, I do not remember, but I'm guessing that we've probably done it before. It's not, like I said, it's not thinking that far outside the box. Yeah.
I think we have done it before. Even Dennis would allude to that. We've done this before 20 years ago. I forgot. You forgot, okay.
But
Wait,
when
you gotta
Dennis
get up
was
to the
here,
mic.
they were
Kinda
deferring
remember.
the payments on the teepees, but that was different time. Alderperson Turchi.
Wow, wow.
Question on setting
back.
precedents going forward.
What's that?
Question on setting precedents going forward.
Yeah, that's a great question. We are actually, our attorney is looking at drafting an ordinance to move forward in which the council would actually approve an ordinance which states that if a house being built for spec purposes would, to the desire of the city's needs, that we may have the ability to defer those. So in essence, we may be changing an ordinance in the near future.
Which I would recommend, and then I would recommend when we change that ordinance that it would have to come to the council for approval each and every time the
Yeah.
request came in, right? So we can vote on, yes, this one we're gonna take for this reason, et cetera, right?
Yep.
Good, thank you.
Alderperson Kohler.
Yeah, so this obviously went across in front of the Planning Commission last night. And I made the statement which covered, I let everybody else talk, believe it or not, without jumping in right away. But this is something that you guys asked a lot of the same questions I did, or I made a statement really that, yes, it is, couldn't possibly be setting precedents. I did throw it out and kind of put Steve on the hook and said, this might be something we might want to look into as a permanent ordinance change. But one thing I did say is, you know, we've been going through and we're looking at developing homes. This is the opportunity that came to us. You know, we've put together an ad hoc committee that has the council, that has staff, as well as HDAC on the council, trying to look at what are we doing in building out our, you know, residency, not just the in industry, but what are we doing for residents? This is one that came to us. This is what we were looking for in the long run. Having what is it going to make it more attractive for people to come in? Exactly what you're saying, Wayne. So again, I was 100% in favor of this idea. This is what we're trying to do to encourage it. What we're asking for is really just to get to have them be able to use the payment, to pay when they're actually going to use the services that they're connecting to, opposed to in advance. And one of the comments that came out to the reason why we ask for it when the developer comes in is because half the time, and I'm going to quote you from last night, is half the time we don't see the developer after they sign the thing, so we make to get the money ahead of them, you know, right when we're doing it. So again, at this time, it may set precedents, and we are looking into that, but I do think it's a great way to spark it. And Dennis, here is 7 new single-family homes.
Alderperson Reagan.
So since it is kind of a newer thing for us to do this, I would consider this like a test run. You know, the success of this may, you know, like I said, lean us one way or the other into doing it in the future. So I would encourage us to look after it that way.
Yeah, just to kind of get you up to speed also is the fact that this 7 lots, as you mentioned, is a test run for, we'll call it next generation housing if we need to. Anyways, but the bottom line is that we do have another subdivision in which we're looking to continue this process. Because if they do sell as fast as we anticipate they will, we'd love the opportunity to bring more people and grow the community. Mayor.
Yes, I had participated in a Zoom meeting with the League of Wisconsin Municipalities today. Guest speaker was Elmer Moore Jr. He's the executive director appointed by Governor Evers for WHEDA, which is Wisconsin Housing and Economic Development Authority. And it was an interesting thing when we went through what housing it costs, of course, and I was using one for some time years ago, which was the low-income, high-density government subsidized housing, which then turned into low-income housing, which then turned into affordable housing, which then turned into workforce housing. So please understand, and this was Elmer Moore Jr. bringing up these individual titles and how the government has talked to them. So again, that euphemistic type of move to the type of home, and these are all, if WIDA is involved, all of those things are set up, so there is an income restriction to get into that house with WIDA assistance. So I just wanted to make sure that, we're not looking at any WIDA assistance, not that it's bad, but this is something that's separate from that, and so if we can move forward with these 7 houses, that's great. We only got 1,493 to go.
And the point to that is, what the mayor is talking about is, if they had a Title X project, which through WIDA, would restrict it then to those who earn a maximum amount. So this is not one of those projects. Alderperson Garza.
Yeah, I just want to say that, this still kind of a traditional way of building homes. You still got the builder, you still got land that's getting purchased. We're just making one small change to what gets paid out right away. And if we defer this park and rec payment and other builders come in and say, hey, we really enjoyed the way you guys did that, or like the way you did it, let's do it again. That's a great way to get business in here, and it's still traditional. We got less red tape, less naming of the homes. It's not any project. It's just regular, traditional home building with a little help, help in a way of us deferring the payments. So, yeah, I mean, there's no need to name this as affordable housing, accessible housing, or whatever. It's just housing.
It's just housing.
It's just homeowners looking for a home that they can actually purchase. So I'm for this.
Alderperson Fulop.
So, like the others, like the idea, curious on a couple of things. Normally, when we do this, they'd have to pay right up front when they took out a permit to be able to do it, is that right?
Correct.
So when Ian does this, let's say this pilot works and we're gonna create something that you mentioned before, would have some language. Why would we do it at the sale of the house versus when the house is complete, and how do we gauge that? So I would put some consideration into that.
Why would he do it at what?
Why would you do it at the sale of the house versus when the house is complete? Because you're already giving them a fairly significant advantage at that point, right? 9 months, 12 months, whatever the case may be.
Obviously, at the sale of the house is when the transfer of deed would go over to the new person. That's your trigger. That's your flag that goes up that says, all right, now we attach our special fee at the time of the closing. So that's when we would get paid.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not,
Okay, for move to defer the park and rec fees for Skyway Park subdivision lot 67 through 73, we've got Alderperson Carroll, second by President Rusniak.
Motion by Alderperson Carroll, seconded by Alderperson Rusniak, approving the deferral of park and rec fees for Skyway Park subdivision lots 67 through 73.
Thank you. Any further discussion, please say no. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No? Motion carried. Thank you very much. For adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
No, we don't do it that way. Alderperson Fulop, Alderperson Savage.
Motion by Alderperson Fulop, seconded by Alderperson Savage, to adjourn at 8:38 PM.
For adjournment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We stand adjourned. Thank you.